fancy another free Explain Airfield scenery? Yeah, this one is a little village called Dunback, which is situated on New Zealand's South Island. And they now have a small airstrip, which is great news for the probably hundreds of thousands of people who have always wanted to fly to Dunback, but have never been able to before. Yeah, so there's the dirt runway, as you hopefully noticed, and there's a parking area at both ends of that, which if you don't like taxiing very far, then that's going to be a bonus feature of this one. Minimal driving, but yeah, you do have something to look at while you get to the runway. Some nice fences, vegetation, even some sheep over there in the field to our right. Can't really see them very well, but yeah, never mind. Let's go flying instead, shall we? Tell you a bit more about it then. Yeah, no, recently, and the subject of my last video was another new airfield, NZTI Tairi. And if you missed it, go and watch that, as there's the Robin Corn original, my tweaked version, info on where to get both, and you definitely should get a version of NZTI, as it's a really lovely airfield scenery. Now, the reason I mention that is because I like having shorter flights. Sometimes I do fly much longer distances in total, but if there's somewhere to land on the way, I quite often do so. Yeah, takeoffs and landings are the most fun parts in my opinion, so if you want to go from one airport to another but can get a few bonus landings on the way, that's always a good thing. Now, with this new Tairi airfield, it's a really nice scenery, so I will be using that from time to time, and I was thinking about journeys, specifically if I started from Christchurch, then there's some nice short hops to Ashburton, to Timaru, to Oamaru, but then it's a much longer leg down to Tairi. And looking at the map, I found this little village called Dunback, which is about halfway between Oamaru and Tairi, and decided they could get their own little fantasy airstrip, which is XNZDU Dunback, as I was obviously feeling very creative that day when it came to names. Yeah, this is probably the more challenging and more visually interesting of the approaches, as you need to clear a few rooftops. Once you are on the ground, and if you get down early and plenty of brakes, you can just about land a Baron here. Not only just, but you can. Yeah, something smaller and you'll be fine. Yeah, for me, I like the Baron and probably fly it more than any other aircraft in X-Plane, and there are plenty of locations with runways that are big enough to land it safely. So when I get the chance to make a little fantasy thing, I often do design it around making it a bit more of a challenge for Baron flight. So Dunback isn't the biggest of places, but that's on purpose. It's not a huge town either, so it probably is more in keeping with the size of the airfield they would have if they did have an airfield here. Although if they did have a real life airfield, I'm sure they would build it in a slightly safer location than this, away from the houses, but hey, it all adds to the fun. So yeah, if you don't like fantasy airfields and only do real world stuff, you can ignore this one, but yeah, if you don't mind having a few extra places to fill in some gaps, then it's quite a nice location, I think. Yeah, not sure we're going to stop in time before we plough through that fence, so yeah, do a slightly high speed left turn into the parking area here. Which was totally to show you that you can use this area and not any kind of mistake or failure on my airmanship at all. Yeah, it was a completely on-purpose demonstration. And okay, it wasn't a great landing, was it? Look. Yeah, quite hard, but also quite long for the Baron, as we do need as much braking area as we can. But we made it. Yeah, we survived. Yeah, so that's the new airport, XNZDU Dunback, which is quite nice, I think. Hopefully you might enjoy a flight here too. And as always, if you'd like a copy of this airfield or any of my other scenery that I've made, there's a link in the description to my mega page where you can get all the scenery and find all the info that you need to make it work. Yeah, and best of luck with this one, especially if you do bring a Baron here.